Hello, everybody. My name is Aaron Mazzeo, and I love surfing and I surf weekly. Today, I'm excited to talk with you about how to buy and sell and choose used surfboards. Let's get started. The first questions we might ask ourselves are, why would you buy a used surfboard? And I've put out a few different reasons here. One is because it might be more sustainable. Another is to save money. And this aspect of buying a used surfboard is important for multiple reasons. One, if you're saving money, you are also probably preserving a relationship with someone else, or you're preparing for a relationship with someone else if you care about that. If you are going solo and you're happy and you don't have to worry about accounting for your expenditures to other people, then this aspect of saving money may not be significantly important to you. Nonetheless, for me, I have to justify why I make some of the purchases that I do. And when taking on a new hobby that can be expensive, it is important to justify these expenditures and how you or how we are attempting to save money in these ventures. Another aspect of saving money will affect your ability and your willingness to share the joy, share the board with other people. I'm much more comfortable letting a friend or a teenager or someone I know who has not had much experience surfing use a board if I know that board did not cost an arm and a leg to acquire. For these two reasons, saving money is important for deciding to buy a used surfboard. Another reason for buying a used surfboard is to help your progression in surfing. I have found in our area that it is difficult to find rentals. And I have rented a board, but it was a very short board and I only rented it for a day, which means I did not have much of an opportunity to develop a feeling for that particular board and understand how that board would respond in different conditions. In one of Surf Simply's podcasts, Rue Hill describes how he essentially spends about a month forming an opinion about a board. And by the time you've spent the money to rent a board for a month, you could have gone ahead and acquired a second-hand board. So, for those of us who are not the Kelly Slaters or very accomplished surfers who have developed a taste for what we want, buying used surfboards facilitates our progression in surfing. Another thing to keep in mind is that there is no such thing as a perfect board, and this point will come up again. From a practical perspective, in terms of why you would want to buy a used surfboard, if you spend a small amount of money, you can avoid buyer's remorse. I have bought used boards that I did not like, and it did not take me too much time to figure out that I did not like that board or those boards. And I was able to sell them without incurring much of a loss. And so we'll talk about that a little bit in terms of how we buy a used board. But these are some of the reasons why I think it's a great idea to buy a used surfboard. How should we go about buying a used surfboard? Well, I think that person to person transactions are the way to go. In that, we have to be concerned about safety. So, you want to meet at a location that you feel safe. You want to potentially tell someone else that you're going there. You want to follow some of the protocols that you might find when searching for how to be safe when buying something from Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace. In our person to person transactions, you also want to be kind and fair and upfront. These principles go along with being kind. If you say you're willing to pay a certain amount beforehand, and there's nothing tremendously wrong about the board or nothing that would have changed your perspective once you see the board, then I think it makes sense to be kind and honor what you said, what you were going to do. I have had an experience where I felt afterward that maybe I could have done some things to protect myself, but I thought that maybe the other person could have also gone a little bit further to honoring what they said they were willing to do. Granted, it was a matter of less than $30, so it was not a significant loss, but nonetheless, it is important to be kind. Be inquisitive. Ask questions before you get there. Ask questions either in the chat or in the email, however you're interacting on the phone, however you're interacting with a person with whom you're going to be having a transaction. Be open. When you're looking for a board, remember it is not necessarily going to be the perfect board. So be open to not necessarily getting exactly what you want, and be smart. So do your research. Know the size, know the type of board that you want and you're looking for to add to your quiver before you invest a whole lot of time in looking at a broad array of options. Again, there's no such thing as a perfect board, and we have to be willing to make compromises. And even in a perfectly new good board, you're going to be making compromises. I'm not a very proficient longboarder. I have an 8-foot Wavestorm. That's my longboard with the perfect storm fit on it, right? But I understand listening and under and getting information from others that there are compromises even in longboards. Is it going to be better for riding on the nose, which sounds fun and I have not yet learned how to do, or carving and turning? So there are going to be compromises, and there's no such thing as a perfect board. And one board in one set of conditions will be great for those conditions, while another board in another set of conditions will be great for those conditions. When we are buying a used surfboard, think of it as a temporary acquisition. And so we're going to try to buy low and sell low. This is a hobby, not a way to make a lot of money for most of us. Now, I understand that there are those who do make a business out of selling and switching and acquiring boards at low prices. From the perspective that you might want to take as a beginning surfer or someone who's, again, not at the competitive level, think about, will you be able to sell the board without incurring much of a loss after you've used it for a few months? Now, sometimes you'll get a board that is wonderful and you'll keep it for more than a few months, and that's great. That should be one of the goals, that you're looking for something that is a long-term acquisition. Nonetheless, if we buy low and we're willing to sell low, then we are also facilitating the progression of other surfers who are in this journey of exploration. Some of the questions we might ask when we are attempting to purchase a board would be the dimensions. We want to know the dimensions of the board. And if they have the volume, that's wonderful. There are calculators online that will tell you what the volume or estimate what the volume should be if you input the dimensions. So at least we want the standard dimensions, which would be length, width, and thickness. And then a calculator can even adjust the volume calculation slightly based on whether it's a short board, whether it's a hybrid, whether it's a fish, whether it's a fun board, whether it's a long board. Materials, obviously, some types of boards are going to cost more than others. And an old polyurethane board was probably going to be on the lower end, like a polyurethane polyester type of board is going to be on the lower end of price. And do not necessarily be scared if you're going for that low end price point, then do not be scared if that board is a little bit yellowed. That is a natural process that occurs over time. Try to see the exact board before you get there. There are many people online who have a collection of boards and they say, this is the range of prices. Come down, check it out. I will provide you something. And that is an okay approach. And that's how a surf shop operates too. So you can go that route. Nonetheless, I try to ask specifically for the range of board I'm interested in and will ask them to send me dimensions and a price for something that would be in that range. And they can sometimes send you a picture of the board too. And that allows you to ask questions about quality, which are the next two. It's almost standard now in these interactions to ask, is the board watertight? Not being watertight is not a reason to not buy a board. Okay, that was a lot of knots. It's okay if the board has a ding, as long as you're willing to fix that ding. If that ding has been around and has penetrated through the outer shell or fiberglass, and water has been getting inside of it, then that could be an issue. If you have an idea that the person or whoever had the board previously was surfing a lot on it with significant punctures into the board, then that's probably an indicator to avoid buying the board. And that's related to the next question. Are there delaminations? Now, I have bought a board that had some delamination when I was with family across the country. I was looking for a beater board. I wanted to go surfing and this board looked pretty good. I believe I ended up paying $80 to $100 on it. And when I thought about, okay, how much would it cost for me to rent a board 4 times or 3 times, however many times over the duration of the 3 weeks we were there, or 2 weeks? I can't remember how long the trip was. I think it was 3 weeks. I was able to rationalize the cost, and the board was great. I had a wonderful time. It was in that case maybe a little bit longer, and not again. I made some compromises. Not exactly what I wanted, but it worked wonderfully, and I caught some very nice rides with that board. I was grateful that I had done that. And then when you're buying, sure, have the power to walk away. So what I'd like to do very briefly is just give a little bit of an idea based on what we might find on Craigslist, a marketplace, how we can go about making some decisions. And I don't necessarily want to click on the links because I don't want to reveal anyone's personal information. But even from the pictures and from these little titles, you can kind of get an idea of what the board might look like. Here we have a wave storm. If you want to pay close to full price but not have to wait for the shipping, yeah, okay, that's okay. This board right here looks like it might be reasonable in terms of its price, and the reason it's probably not selling is because it is on the smaller side. So this is I think a fair price, but it's maybe on the smaller side. Again, so here is someone with a huge collection. So you might want to ask them some questions before you get out there. You can see from here the sweet spot, I think, when you are looking at used boards that you might try. At least for me, I'm looking for things that are going to be less than $250. And you think about, okay, I can buy 2, maybe 3 boards for the price of one if I find 3 at $200. And my favorite board right now is an NSP board. It's actually in the thumbnail here. It's an old 6'4" fish that I found for $50. And it's great. It's a little bit too large for me, so I'm now looking to get something with a little bit less volume. But that's become my favorite board. It allows me to work on pumping and getting down the line. It's a lot of fun. I have another board that I bought for around $100 that I have found does not let me get into as many waves as I would like. The paddle to surf ratio, I guess, is a little bit low. That board is probably around 30 liters. And what I'm finding is it's not trivial on these used websites to find boards that are in between, say, 30 and 40 liters. So if you find one there, it may be a little bit more of a gem. You'll find a lot of boards that are small and short, and smaller boards, of course, cost less. And you'll find longer boards that people are looking to part with. So these are some examples of boards that are in our local area. And I might want to check this one out, but maybe I have before because that's been there since January 4th. And this website gives you a little bit of an idea. And for Craigslist, at least, if you put in a minimum price, that way you don't have to look at all the pictures of surfboard modems. Here are some other examples of boards on not Belmar, on yes, there are some of them are available at Belmar on Marketplace that might be worth looking at. And of course, Marketplace allows you to have alerts and to be able to type in range of prices as well. Again, if we ask the questions that we have here, we will be able to make some decisions before we even make the trip to have a person-to-person interaction to purchase a board. So that's what I'd like to say about why and how to buy used surfboards. To conclude our session, we'll talk a little bit about the surfing that I was able to experience this past week. We had an epic storm. And Monday, the surf was huge. I would not have dared gone out in those conditions, but we had people in New Jersey who did. Ben Gravy was out there. Rob Kelly was out there. I think there's some great pictures of them catching some very large waves off the New Jersey shore, off the Jersey shore. I went out on the Tuesday morning. I dropped the kids off, and the waves were probably at about 3 to 4 feet, and they were pretty far apart. So for New Jersey, that means 9 seconds, 10 seconds, which gives you a little bit of time to paddle out, to recuperate, to get out past the break. And then there were a few waves that just are what we would call cleanup that were enormous. I don't know where they came from. And, you know, I didn't see where I was. A person did not catch the wave right there, but it was inspiring nonetheless to see these waves. It was fun. I caught a very nice right and I enjoyed it quite a bit. When do I plan to go surfing this next week? Well, if we look at the forecast, I think that it's going to be fun tomorrow. This is a fairly short period. This is Saturday. But I doubt I'll be able to make it out with my commitments to family. So I would say, and look, it's low tide around 4 o'clock. So I would say, yeah, if you can, I think it's worth giving a shot here and off the Jersey coast. We're talking 3.5 at 7 seconds. So it's going to be a little bit tight, but the wind is going to be pretty low, and I think it would be fun. Sunday, I think, is also looking good, 2.5 feet and 10-mile-per-hour winds from the west. Sounds like fun. Again, I have church stuff, so I'm not going to be going out then. But Monday, it looks like we'll have more of this kind of 2.5 foot type swell, but the period will be like 10 seconds. That should be nice. And low tides at 5:10. What is the first light is probably, oops, where is it? Where's sunrise? Okay, well, I don't see sunrise on this chart, but my guess is it's probably around 6:40 a.m. So I'll probably be going out Monday morning. That's when I would advise going. The rest of the week, Tuesday, I think looks like it could be fun for longboarding, and even 2.5 feet. I mean, that's probably longboard stuff. I might take the wave storm out. I'll probably take 2 boards, the wave storm and the fish, and then going into the rest of the week, you know, the wind, at least it's offshore, but with the exception of maybe this Thursday window, it's looking kind of strong for these smallish waves that we're seeing there. So I'm gonna probably try to get out Monday morning. That'll be my weekly surf. Thank you everybody for being here. I will go ahead and for the next 5 minutes, I guess, be available on Zoom. And there's the Zoom information in the link for this live stream. Thank you for tuning in. And I hope that we all get